Okay, wow. Great to be here. Thank you for having me here. And wow, I'm totally amazed and impressed of such a nice and big family, and finally to see all you again after so much time. So please forgive me if I am a little bit nervous. As most of us, there have not been so many of these opportunities in the last years to do. So, first thing that doesn't work is this one. No?
Yeah, let's see.
I love it.
Let's see. We are trying to figure out what's wrong.
No problem.
Okay, I can
no
actually.
problem.
Let's see. Can we get working? Yes, no? Meanwhile,
I take the opportunity then and do what Robert did, if that's okay for you. I better do that before the presentation. Oh my God. Wow. Thank you. Yeah.
Happened. You were nervous that this might happen, so it happened, you know, just as you said. If you're not aware, me and Christian, I think it was me and you, yeah, we did a nice DevOpsy sort of speech that was published on our social networks. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. We sort of gave reasons behind why people should maybe migrate Zabbix to containers. Okay, let's see, something's going on. Yeah, we're, it's opening the PowerPoint. I can see it on this screen. Can I see it on that screen?
That happens actually if you have IT environment not orchestrated and running on Windows, right?
Okay, so you can see our guys are still trying to figure it out. Yeah, so we had a nice speech. So meanwhile, we can just improvise. Okay, can you answer this question, Christian? Should I move my Zabbix environment to containers? There we go, you can answer it right now because everything's working.
Great. Okay, let's start again. So, as most of you have found out already, I'm going to talk about Zabbix and Kubernetes. Wow. But before I start doing that, who am I and why am I speaking about this? Well, we are actually a consulting and services and also product company now in Germany. Myself, I am from one of these down there, the green one, and that's probably the name under which you know me, those of you that know me. What happens right now is that we are merging several companies into one bigger one, and don't even remember that name too good because we are already have decided to change it for the next year, but I'm not allowed to use this new branding for the slides. So that's so far. And from the consultancy part, yes, I have the honor to work in and for the team of cloud native infrastructure and services. Monitoring is a part of that, but we also do all the Kubernetes stuff, all the container stuff, all the microservices stuff, and all these cool new things. Okay, so what is this talk about? Actually, we're gonna complete a bit or complement the talk of Robert. I'm going to speak very simply about how to put Zabbix inside Kubernetes. We are not talking about monitoring Kubernetes with Zabbix. That's a whole topic on its own. The day is not long enough for this. So we are really talking about the installation and lifecycle management inside Kubernetes. And parts of that we have already answered. Parts of that we have not. So that's why I'm here. First of all, the question you might be asking, why should we deploy Zabbix in Kubernetes? And now we are having the wrong picture here, because in fact it would be because banana, right? Okay, so one banana, please. Okay, awesome. Okay, but for those of you for whom this is maybe not the only answer, I also have some more serious answers on this. And this is actually needs that we came along in our day-by-day work. So maybe you want to use the infrastructure as code methodology that Robert presented very nicely to manage not only one Zabbix installation, but maybe 1,000 of them, or at least 10 or 20 or 2. Production, integration, development, such kind of use cases are very well suited for using Kubernetes and putting your Zabbix inside the Kubernetes. Of course, it might also be, as it happens to us in many projects already, that the infrastructure that we have to deploy stuff into is an OpenShift or a Kubernetes, because the customer already went this step. So if we say we want VMs, customer looks at us like, nah, do you really need that? Can't we put that in Kubernetes? And of course, the high availability functionalities that you basically get for free in a Kubernetes cluster, very nice, and you really want to use that. Maybe. And another, maybe even the biggest use case is, of course, the need for us Zabbix lovers to spin up Zabbix instances every now and when, because the new beta version came out, or you need to test some behavior of Zabbix, and you just need a quickly deployed Zabbix installation. All these are, for me, viable reasons to put a Zabbix into a Kubernetes cluster. So now the question would be, well, but does that even go together? I mean, Zabbix is not really what we can call an entirely microservice application yet, but at least, or no, at least it sounds too negative, but Zabbix offers us the container images. They are very well maintained, they are very well documented, and if we look at these in detail, we will find out that it's not even true that Zabbix is not microserviced yet. I mean, of course, we have these polar processes, we have the configuration sync process, and all these little guys just running together in one container. But if we separate the functionalities, we still have a container image for the Zabbix server. We have one for the proxy, one for the agent, and so on. And that's quite a good approach already. So how do we actually get applications into a Kubernetes? Yeah, there Robert has already said a lot about it. And yes, the answer is, of course, Helm, because, oh, there are some letters have broken. Okay, not so important. So why or how do we install applications in Kubernetes? Robert said it already. There is a standard, a package manager for Kubernetes that's called Helm, and Helm basically is based as a package manager in your Linux distribution. It's based on repositories. These repositories can be remote, can be in the internet, can be on GitHub, or can be on a mirror server in your local data center. This repository contains a chart, and the chart is basically a set of templates that with one central values definition, you configure this application to be how you want it to be. It's basically a little bit like the Ansible orchestration, but it is by definition only one way. And that makes this infrastructure as code approach so complete. Okay, so we figured out that Helm is probably the right way to do that. We can manage with the Helm the installation, the upgrades, any changes in our configuration. Robert showed that very well. We can hook in a Helm chart very nicely into a CI/CD pipeline. So that's actually what we want, because after the Helm client does its job, then those lovely objects in the Kubernetes cluster will just appear and be there and behave how we want them to behave and to interact with each other. So that was what we thought, and we came along to the point that we were searching for the one and only Helm chart to install Zabbix in a Kubernetes cluster. And we were seeking for options and found out, yeah, there is some options. There is a Helm chart maintained by Zabbix, actually, but this is a special use case. Some of you might know it. It is a Helm chart that is specifically done or developed for the Kubernetes monitoring inside Zabbix that was released now with 6.0. So that was not suitable for us to install a Zabbix server. We found those YAML files on GitHub, which are very good examples and containing like the building blocks and how those YAML files could look like, but they don't contain this application approach that a Helm chart should have. So then we continued searching in the community and we found one. The URL is down there, but don't remember it. We found that this was like the most popular one and probably the best one, but still we were missing some functions, some features. So what do you do in open source software when you find something that is almost as good as you want it? Yeah, you get involved into the development and invest your time and do it better. So by the way, by doing that, I found a new friend. I'm still not able to pronounce his name, sorry. But I know he's very well known in the Brazilian community. And actually, we had very, very long conversations via different channels. And yeah, it was and it is still a lot of fun. So this guy was and is one of the main maintainers of this Helm chart I just mentioned, and together with me and us, we implemented a lot more functionalities. We put this Helm chart into new shape, and finally we even discussed with the organization holding the original repository, and we migrated this into a new organization inside GitHub. So there is a new URL that is cut off here, but no worries, it will be back again. So what did we really do there? Well, first of all, we focused on the coverage of all the Zabbix 6 features, mainly the high availability part. Also the web service, the Zabbix web service, that process that is responsible for the scheduled reports. We enabled the chart to deploy the agent 2 by default, and another part that was very important for me was actually a support of a production-grade database with that Helm chart, because we don't want to do that only for fun and for bananas, also because of work. So we have a very good experience with the crunchy data Postgres operator. That's an operator which you basically, if I go forward here a little bit, a little process, a container actually, running in your Kubernetes cluster, which you throw a YAML definition on, and that guy will start deploying an entire high available or not high available Postgres cluster with everything you might imagine and need, just with one YAML definition. Also, this one throws out the secret with an already auto-generated password and all the necessary data that a client for this database would need to actually connect to this database. And also, PGO comes with integrated backup and restore mechanisms and whatnot. So we wanted to use that for production installations, and so we added a functionality into this chart that you can actually configure your Helm chart, and it will automatically use the secret over there and connect to the database just magically. Okay, what else did we do? A lot of little things that even I do not remember. Yeah, SAML authentication, custom containers, custom sidecar containers, and all these kind of things that you might need at some point. And that was the theory part of it. And you would not believe me that this actually works, so I prepared a little demo, But as Zabbix doesn't trust me that this demo would actually work, we have recorded it. So what do we do here? We are at the GitHub page of the Helm chart. You see Zabbix community. So I really hope there will be coming more projects into that organization. And if you go there, you will find the README of the Helm chart itself. And as it's a long README, it comes with a TLDR on top. And that heads us directly to the installation instructions. And here we find our Helm repo add with the right URL that we can just grab and copy and head over to our console and paste it there. Okay, after we've done that, now we basically add into the local Helm the definition of this repository directly from GitHub. Okay, now we do the Helm repo update. This is pretty much like a opt update on Ubuntu. And now we are able to even search inside our repo what is in there, including typos, of course. Yeah, and here we go. There is a Zabbix community / Zabbix chart in chart version 3.2.2 and application version 6.08. Actually, we decided to have the LTS versions in the app version and installed by default. If you want to use the non-LTS version, you just have to change one entry in the YAML file, in the values YAML file, by the way. Talking about the YAML file, once we do that, yes, it works, nice. We can go and inspect the values that this chart actually defines by default. That's a long list. I'm just showing it very quickly here, so you have a rough idea what is configurable there. And that happens now. Banana. Okay, so you see at the very top, you see the image tag. There you can put like Ubuntu trunk. If you want, then you get like the latest and greatest beta version. You have a centralized part for all things that have to do with the database access. You can just leave it as it is, then you will automatically get a secret deployed with a password. You have the way to define whether you want to deploy a Postgres or not. You have a Zabbix server part, you have a Zabbix agent part, Zabbix proxy part, and so on. And all these defaults are set in a way that if you just don't care about anything, you will get a good result. You will just get a running Zabbix server, okay? Nevertheless, yeah, we have the different ingress definitions here. We have for the default ingress, we have ingress route for those that use traffic as a load balancer, and of course also for OpenShift, the route definitions. Okay, so I have created for the demo a very simple and very small values YAML file. So I just have defined the latest 6.2 version to be deployed. I did not deploy a production grade Postgres cluster. Instead of that, I just did deploying a Postgres together with my Helm chart, which is fully fine. I did want to have the Zabbix agent running, the Zabbix web running, and what is notable is that I chose a replica count of 2 for both the Zabbix web and the Zabbix server. So you remember that we have this new functionality of the server HA, which actually fits into running in Kubernetes very well. Okay, so let's check out what this does in reality and in action. We have a rancher here just to make the whole Kubernetes looking a bit more beautiful, so we can observe how things happen. We are inside a namespace, and we are going to install our Zabbix with Helm from the command line. So this part could be, of course, integrated in your CI/CD pipeline. In this case, we're doing it manually by the Helm command. So what you see here, we refer this demo values YAML file, and we install the Zabbix community / Zabbix Helm chart. So magic happens, takes some seconds, and we should be seeing something. Yes, we do. In the background, we already see that some pods have been deployed and have started. What is notable at this point is that we have 2 Zabbix server pods, and they both are in this a little bit strange init phase here. What we have done here is we actually have integrated a container that is started together with this pod, a so-called init container, that actually does nothing else than waiting for the database to be available, and really available, not only connectable, and preventing the server from starting before. Why? Because otherwise we would now have 2 Zabbix servers trying to publish one database structure at the same time, which I can tell you goes wrong. So we have this extra job up there, that's just one, and this guy is doing the database publishing, and once it finishes its job, now we see the completed there, then the Zabbix servers start. And then we have a running Zabbix instance. Okay, we can check out the logs of the Zabbix server, and you see down there that this Zabbix server node started in the standby mode. And of course, we also checked the other one, and we found out this one is started in active mode. So we have employed the Zabbix server HA functionality. Nice. Now, you wouldn't believe me that this Zabbix is actually working. That's why I'm heading over to the next part of this demo, where I go to the service discovery, the ingresses, and I just click on that URL that I defined that would be available for my new Zabbix installation. And banana! We are in, we have our Zabbix, and this is probably what you have seen at some point when deploying a Zabbix. Zabbix comes up, Zabbix server is running, even Zabbix agent is deployed with it. We have host availability, we have collecting data, everything is nice, everything is beautiful. So, last point here is this server HA functionality that I mentioned. If we go to the reports and system information, we will see here we have those 2 nodes, and we have the high availability cluster functionality enabled. We also see that one of our nodes equals to pods in this case, is in the active and one in standby mode. Now we will do something that in Kubernetes is kind of common. We will kill the active node, so to say, so the pod containing the Zabbix server instance that is in active mode. What we see now is a standard behavior of Kubernetes, just replacing that died node with a new one. Okay, nice. And if we now head back to our Zabbix, and we reload this page, then we see now we have 3 of these nodes. One is stopped, that's the one we killed, and one is standby and one is active. I can't tell you whether the new one that was deployed is now the active one or the one that was the standby before. If you took care very, very clearly, I believe it was the one that was in standby before. But, well, we can do this, this game as often as we want. We have this deployment object there, so we can even scale this up. If we say, our Zabbix is so important, we need it like 4 times, 4 Zabbix server instances, of which, of course, 3 will be in the standby. And what you cannot see right now, but now you can, if you look at this very carefully, you will see that these Zabbix server instances are even running on different Kubernetes cluster nodes. That's also something that we have implemented there. So now we see a lot of standby, 1 active, and 1 stopped, so our old node is still there. And now we go and scale back to only 2 nodes to just show you one more thing that we did. And no, we did not reinvent the iPhone. Okay, so we scaled back. We have 2 Zabbix server pods running. All the others disappeared. We have now 3 of those stops. So imagine what happens if you run this in your production cluster over years. You at some point would have like 100 or 1,000 of those died pods there, right? And that's not beautiful, and that's not production grade. So we thought about that and thought, what can we do here? And yeah, we came up with an idea. We actually have added a cron job to the deployment, which is also being deployed together with the Helm chart. And this cron job is, by the way, just a standard object in Kubernetes, and it does exactly what you expect what a cron job does. The nice thing here is that we can start this cron job manually, or spawn a job from this definition of a cron job. And what this does, the name says it already, it's the nodes cleaner. That one actually connects to the Zabbix and cleans up those old pods that are kind of not needed anymore, because there will never ever be a pod coming up with this same name. And here we go. Now it's cleaned up and ready for continuation of operation. And that was it, basically. I would like to say thank you. If anybody of you has a question, I don't know, we have time now. Otherwise, those who know you know that I'm not the guy going home early, so you will find me around. And otherwise, there's my contact data. Thank you.
Christian, please stay.
I stay?
We do have some questions. And one of the questions from the community, are there any comments you could give on the PostgreSQL performance in the Kubernetes specifically?
I would refer to Robert's talk here, because really we have not seen any worse performance. It's a little bit like years ago we had this discussion of, is it the right way to deploy Zabbix in virtual machines, or should we have physical hardware? And that was a time when virtual machines were just dramatically slower than the physical hardware. A container is not even virtualization. It is not slower, but of course it depends. It depends on what kind of storage you have. Do you use like an external fiber channel storage with a good bandwidth, or do you just build something on your own on maybe even very slow local disks? Then it's probably going to be a bad performance. But no negative experiences with performance in containers at all.
Thank you. And just one more. So those installations, specifically clusters, do you actually monitor them with Zabbix itself?
Oh, that's a good question. Partly yes, partly no. There we come to the point of monitoring Kubernetes and Kubernetes workloads with Zabbix, which is enough space for a talk on its own. Short version, yes, we do that because we love Zabbix. Longer version, there is other tools that are in this area and very popular in this area that also have their certain beauty, so to say.
Thank you very much. That's all.